Hello and welcome back to the live coverage of Paprykarz Open number 5. It's a Team RPTQ for the 25th anniversary Pro Tour. My name is Piotr and I'm joined here today by
Piotr,
Piotr. Yes.
also known as Canister.
Also known as Canister, a great modern player. Not only modern player, a great Magic player overall. Okay, so some teams have already picked up their second loss, which unfortunately for them means they are out. But it's not like that for these two teams. They are going 2-0. Our feature match is going to be exciting as always, because the matches that we've seen so far have always been decided in the last possible match.
Yeah, and they were pretty close and interesting to watch and spectate.
Exactly. Lots of small interactions, small things that we don't always see, like Knight of Grace beatdowns, countering abilities.
Yeah, this allowing Temple of Aklatot's ability, my favorite play so far at this tournament.
Alright, so we have a Polish team of Michał Lipiński, Dominik Konieczny and Karol Nosowicz against Leo Bartolom, Lee Murphy and Marko Milivojevic. So a multinational group of players. Let's see what they are playing. I think that match on table C has already started, so we can actually go with that. Alright, so we have a classic.
Yeah, the Bomad Courier versus tapped irrigated farmland. Bomad Courier being on the play, definitely not favoring the blue-white control player, but not a strong second turn. Just shock to the face, pass, playing around counter spells. Really not wanting to let the opponent use his mana in any way resembling efficiency. Exactly.
So now Bomad Courier getting frisky again, trying to attack. We see that Karol actually has some answers in his hand. Decides not to deploy a seal away. And now we'll see if the Goblin Chain will resolve. It will not. It will get syncopated. That should be exiled. Exactly.
Yeah, okay. you should pretty often take 1 damage here, because you have the syncopate. Syncopate gets worse and worse as the game goes on. It also gets you an answer to something like a Chandra or Hazret. So, like, there is some tension there, but answering Goblin Chain Whirler is gonna prevent more damage than seal awaying this immediately, so...
Karol taking this opportunity to exile the Bomad Courier, while Marko didn't have red mana available to sacrifice it, denying him all those cards that got exiled.
Yeah, Marko drew his 4th land, enable him to deploy 4-drop. It is the worst of the 4-drops for against blue-white control. The kind of Phoenix, not... Well, that's certainly not a...
It's not as strong as against other decks.
Yeah,
There's so many exile effects that white-blue can utilize that it's not as threatening.
It's certainly nothing you can just brush off, but it's not as exciting as it is in mirror matches, for example.
Exactly. We'll see if it will connect.
Karol is really flooded on those Teferis. He would really love to deploy Teferi on an empty or close to empty battlefield, so he chooses to cast out. You see that he chose to cast Settle the Wreckage, even though he had Seal Away in his hand, because he values the Seal Away as a card that he can cast on his next turn. If he top decks a land, plays Teferi plus his Teferi. So that's some forward thinking from Karol.
Now being able to deploy a Goblin Chain Whirler, some incremental damage.
Not too shabby.
Yeah, and still no land. That's not what you want to see when you play such a mana-intensive deck.
Yeah, Karol would love to drop it a Fairy here with 3 of those in his hand, but Settle the Wreckage, while not the best draw, he might just repeat what he has done next turn. Just settle away that Goblin Chain Whirler. Marko might even fall for that and just run out a haste creature if he draws one, attack with both, since he already settled, but since he also settled, that also might mean that he gets more settles, so that's always a tough dance to play.
Exactly. And that's what he does. He's pretty consistent with using his settles. So gives Marco another land. Gets rid of that Goblin Chain Whirler.
I haven't
And we'll
seen
see what the
Marco's
follow-up
hand.
is.
It's an extra mountain.
I think there is also a Lightning Strike and a Killing Phoenix.
I think it's a Soulscar Mage.
Or maybe a Soulscar Mage, yeah.
That's much less threatening.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you were right.
That would be a great opportunity for Karol to drop a Teferi. So he really wishes for that land. And he really wishes for the land not to be an irrigated farmland.
That would be the most painful.
Search for Ascanta?
Ascanta.
Well, is a land in some...
It will become a land.
It will become land at some point. Not soon,
And
though.
gives him also the ability to check out the top of his deck. Try to sift through some of those draws that might not be optimal right now.
Yep. Marco just drew another Soulscar Mage, I think. That's not too threatening.
Okay. And before damage decides to Lightning Strike face.
For that extra prowess trigger.
Exactly.
Is Karol gonna seal away this guy? No.
Nope, he's not.
Pretty... Well, Karol is not hasty with his removal spells.
Yeah.
He has a plan for them. He almost assuredly been most non-land cards here. Karol has seen something that makes him think. So maybe that's... Oh, that's an extra seal away. Well, that's interesting.
Okay.
Now he can seal away both Soulscar Mages. Or like any extra haste threat that Marco draws.
Unfortunately, he draws only a mountain, so I think both those Soulscar Mages are gonna meet their fate. Oh.
No,
okay.
just one.
Okay, just one.
He's still pretty...
Conservative.
Yeah. He's saying that he knows that he can beat a Soulscar Mage pretty easily.
And there's the farmland.
Yeah, there's the farmland.
Oh well.
Do you keep it or not?
I think you do. I think you do. I think it's with that extra seal away.
Well, I guess that's one damage. I would be tempted to just throw it away. Like I have a lot of lands in my blue-white control deck, preferably. Karol chooses to do the same thing and gets punished for that by drawing the probably one of the worst cards in his deck.
An extra search for a
Extra
Scanta.
search for Ascanta. He might actually consider to play it just to fill his graveyard a little bit more for the first one. He chose not to. It's also understandable.
And Corrupt Crusher coming down, getting sealed away. So that Soulscar Mage chipping in for only for 1 point of damage, and we'll see if there is any land coming for.
Yeah, at the same time, Karol is still bleeding one point of damage per turn,
Mm-hmm.
and he's seen a Disallow on top of his deck. Well, keeping it is not really productive. So you could see merits of keeping that farmland last turn. Now he just another farmland.
Well, that's the one he's going to play. So
Yeah.
after all, we are going to see an irrigated farmland hit the battlefield as the land number 5.
Game broke down, slightly unfortunate for Karol. But he definitely also took a slightly more high risk, high reward play with winning the first farmland. And Marco draws an Abrade, so that's
Which
it.
is a dead card basically in this matchup.
Yep, that's a mostly empty draw step.
So Karol will go with will emerge from this turn with just 6 life due to that Soulscar Mage. We'll see what Search for Scanta reveals. That was a glimmer, I think.
Genius, you certainly been that.
And now you can resolve it a fairy on
Oh,
mostly
did he
empty
forget
board.
to draw a card?
Yeah, he did.
I think he just did forget to draw a card in his draw step.
Yes, Hava is reminding him about that. Yep. And that was a land. Memorial to Genius. Those spell lands are really finding their place in those decks.
Yeah, they fit well in blue-white control. If you have plenty of lands, then you have some extra card advantage with those.
And uncounterable divination, mostly uncounterable.
Yeah,
It's nice.
very strange that mono-red decks don't play for Memorial to War, right?
Yeah.
I guess it's not really
Exactly.
strange because it's very bad.
Oh, come on. You can always destroy an Ascanta.
That's actually
These?
a good point.
Alright. Of course, we're joking.
I wonder if anyone has tried that at some point. Somebody had to try
Somebody
that.
had to try that. There are enough crazy people in the world to try different things. Alright, so we got an active Teferi. We will have a Search for Ascanta maybe flipping this turn.
I like
We'll
that
see.
Karol went for attacking this Soulscar Mage.
Mm-hmm.
Because he both has so many Teferis that he doesn't care if his Teferi dies to like a shock or chain wheeler or
Yeah.
whatever. Like it's not that huge of a deal.
There is more there
And
where that came from.
also, the extra important thing is that ensures that Marco draws a Soulscar Mage 3 turns from now, which is a terrible draw step.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes Karol's position overall stronger.
Alright, Teferi goes up. Draws a card. Let's see what Karol does, because
It's probably Glimmer of Genius on tap 2 lands, then
Yeah.
Hold cast out.
it seems like a good play. Because you really want to use that extra mana that Teferi provides. Torrential Gearhulk on top.
That's a nice card.
With all those cards in your graveyard, I think you really like what you see here. Yeah, exactly. An extra land. And suddenly, after all his land woes, he's in a commanding position, I would say.
Imagine if some of those mountains that Marco drew were memorials to war. If he would be able to activate those when Karol was mana screwed.
Yes, yes. Punished for not playing Memorial to War. You heard it here first. Alright, some results coming in from the other tables. So Leo Bartolome has taken a match from Michał Lipinski, and Dominik Kęczny has picked up a win against Lee Murphy. So those players are going to their sideboards now. But
So teams are splitting the wins so
Yes.
far.
alright, and a break.
Let's.
Um,
That play has some issues. I believe
Yep.
that Marco wants to trigger Prowess twice, make it a 3-4, and
Well, it has some implications when it comes to Hazoret, because you want to be able to attack with it, but then
that's true. But I think he just wanted to push damage because it looks like he did that before damage.
yeah,
But that's a like if you do a mental shortcut of my Soulscar Mage is not gonna die to Abrade, it's a 3-4, but then you Abrade it twice, so it takes
Yes.
6 damage total. It should die.
so
But
yeah,
Karol also seemingly not realizing that it's gonna die, casts out it just for a good measure.
okay. So yeah, some slight missteps from
Yeah,
both players.
those tournaments are
Stressful, long. So you're
grueling, so you are gonna make some mistakes along the way.
yes. What you have to do is make the most out of the situations that you are in, and just not worry about.
Or get fortunate and make those mistakes when they don't matter. Because Karol is not gonna lose this game.
Yes, you can always count on your teammates to carry you, and since this match is, I think, already decided, I think we can take a look at some other tables if they have finished sideboarding. Huh? They're still shuffling. We are still in shuffle cam mode. So let's join in another table as soon as they start playing. Okay, so we have a blue-white deck, we have a red deck, so we can see what the other guys are playing. Wow, very protective with his cards.
Oh yeah, that's a way to shuffle, not to reveal the deck
Uh-huh.
to your teammates, to
Oh,
make sure
okay.
that you don't reveal the deck to your teammates, so
Okay,
the tournament integrity is preserved.
yes. So Marco realizing that he cannot possibly win that game, scoops his cards up. And we can join table number 1 as the players decide whether they want to keep their hands or not.
At least I hope we will. Join
We
the
will.
table.
Okay, we see a green deck, and I saw a Lifecrafter's Bestiary, so I can assume that the other deck is a control of some sorts, since that's what you want against control
Also,
decks.
Wind and Constrictor.
Hmm.
Oh, that was a real
Painful play.
risky keep on
Uh-huh.
Mihau's
Side.
side. He needed that second land real badly. Then he would just play his Bestiary that would hopefully scry him into his extra lands. Now Leo has access to a creature that clogs Mihau. Looks like Leo is playing actually the blue-black midrange deck again.
Still, you really want that rock, that Pokedex, as we call it, to allow you to scry to gain some value from your.
Oh, of course.
creatures.
I think that's even worse for Mihau because Leo being a slightly more proactive deck
You don't want to stumble.
gives you even less room to stumble. He
Jade
finds
Ranger.
finds his extra land, fortunately for him. Gets to dig himself closer to a land drop. He didn't get any extra ones from Jade Ranger.
And chart a course, interestingly, for Leo in his deck. A card that we have typically seen in decks like, for example, Godfather's Gift.
Yeah, it is commonly used in blue, white, and other Godfarer's gift decks as a means to actually discard cards.
Hmm. Here is just straight up gas.
Yeah, Leo just wants to actually draw cards and not discard.
Mhm.
And he managed to do that by attacking with a gifted Etherborn.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
Michał not willing to give up on his Jade Ranger and cast out, denying that one extra mana that might be crucial for
It's very relevant.
Michał.
With cards like Blossoming Defense and Mihau's hand, he's really relying on that.
Rishkar joining the battlefield.
Getting some extra mana.
Exactly, because every creature with a counter on it when Rishkar is on the battlefield can produce an extra green.
Now he gets to Blossoming Defense if he wishes, so
That's a blow.
that's a big tempo play, so I will believe he will do this.
Yep.
And we see Michał actually getting back into this game. His position is by no means perfect, but if he gets to untap with those Rishka creatures for some turns and do some stuff, he might be able to beat that Scarab God Torrential Gearhawk Walking Ballista hand, but it's...
I believe he has an Hour of Glory, so...
yeah, Hour of Glory lines great against the Scarab God, if Leo just goes for that.
Yes.
Torrential Gearhawk is going to be a huge problem, no matter what. And of course this duress missing, seeing Leo has like only creature spells in his hand. A big deal. Michał goes for Bestiary.
So at the beginning of each upkeep he will get the opportunity to scry one, and whenever he casts...
He thinks that maybe he can grind through Torrential Gearhawk this way.
Leo doing the
Ravenous Chupacabra draw is certainly not making things any easier for Michał. I would even say that makes things harder for him.
Yes, that's a very that's a bold statement.
Yeah.
What do you base it on?
Yeah. So now
Gifted Etherborn still jamming in.
yeah, Torrential Gearhawk exiling that Rishka Pima Renegade, denying Michał two points of mana per turn, putting a sizable pressure on Michał. And since Michał is down a game, it looks to me like it's pretty likely that he's gonna need to rely on his teammates this particular round.
So, what we saw was casting an Llanowar Elf and paying extra green to Lifecrafter's Bestiary so that he can draw an extra card. that extra card was, I think, a land that he desperately needed. So that's good.
Yeah, like he needs lands, but he also needs spells to answer that. And
Mhm.
Leo is just drawing straight up gas, removal spell after removal spell, and removal spells are traditionally great against snake decks.
Yes, because you rely on those counters actually sticking on creatures, and without them, without the counters, the creatures are medium, and
Yeah, like a lot of creatures are just power and toughness, and removal spells line up good
Mhm.
if you can remove power and toughness at tempo advantage, which you often can, or if you gain something by removing them, like pushing extra points of damage. Like that's just basic magic. But for example, Daylight Ranger, like once it's on the battlefield, it's just power and toughness.
Mhm.
Winding Constrictor is also only stats and giving like more stats to other creatures. They don't have like real actual other utility.
So Michał deciding to trade his two creatures for the Torrential Gearhulk.
Yeah, trading his mana source. Because he knew of this Walking Ballista,
Mhm.
so keeping this Llanowar Elf in play was dangerous.
What he doesn't know about is the Ravenous Chupacabra, which can basically wipe his board.
Yeah, Leo has a choice between this Crab God or the Ravenous Chupacabra.
Goes for the more powerful option of the two.
Might as well ask that question now.
Yes.
If Michał has an answer, it costs his entire turn of mana. We know that he has an Hour of Glory, so he can answer this Crab God, but he needs to spend 4 mana to do that, and then Leo has a clear turn where he can Chupacabra
Mhm.
this monster again.
Leo reveals
Maybe
his hand.
play a small Walking Ballista if he's interested into that.
So
Leo points at his Ravenous Chupacabra,
that's
probably
the,
saying, "Hey, that's a very strong card against you." And Michał says, "Oh, well, I agree."
yes.
That's
Well, I'll be
what
damned.
I imagine the discussion to be. Goes for never to return into possibly,
Ballista X2.
or just flashing back never to
Or
be
flashing
the
back
most
never,
mana
mhm.
efficient.
Yeah.
Walking Ballista for 2 is also a decent option because that's a creature that deals more damage, like more threatening one.
Mhm. Goes for the
I, I,
return
do-
part.
I don't think you can really go wrong as Leo
Mhm.
in this spot. So
Leo taking a closer look at Michał's graveyard. Exiles it to rest.
Black Green Constrictor decks usually don't have any all that many cards that interact with their graveyard.
Mhm.
You don't want to really exile creatures from the graveyard because you have Scarab God in your own deck.
Mhm.
I guess there might be Nissa Vital Force that allows you to bring back Pyramids from your graveyard to your hand, but it seems like none of the Pyramids were juicy enough for Leo to consider taking. He just went for a duress, which I don't think there is an upside of in removing, but just wanted to preserve creatures for the Scarab
Mhm.
God.
Alright, Walking Ballista X1 and the Glintsleeve Siphoner joining the battlefield for Michał. Well,
I think you want to play Ballista Precon, but just to make that trade with Glintsleeve Siphoner,
mhm.
so you don't trade your zombie down. But like Leo is just so resource heavy. Michał also doesn't want to kill this Champion of Weeds, but he will need to at
Mhm.
some point. Like, is he gonna shoot it down now? Yes, he does. After taking unnecessary damage from that.
And Michał is on 4 points of life. His Ballista X3 is disastrous if Leo
there's
just
also an
adapts.
extra one in hand, so
Yes, so we see the handshake. So the first set of matches goes to the team on the right. Let's see how Leo's teammates are doing, how Michał's teammates are doing. Okay, so we are back to our blue-white versus red deck matchup from Karol and Marco. We see a much better situation for the red deck than we saw in the last time we were here. Developed Hazoret,
So
Chandra,
Fat Bombat Courier.
It's a thick bowmat.
thick one. Okay.
Yes, a thick bowmat.
I see 4 cards.
All right, so, well, it's not necessarily what you want to see when you have an active Hazard.
Also, no attacks.
Yeah. Respecting that settle
Hazard is
record.
not really active.
Yeah, there are too many cards in his hand.
We have to wait for light attacks to update, but I would assume that Carol is quite low and Marco is. Oh, Marco also has this Chandra, right?
Yes.
Is this Chandra on the battlefield? I assume so, because
yeah.
she has a 3 loyalty counters on her. So she's just gonna wait and Stranded settles and not attack at all and require Carol to deal with his threats individually with very inefficient answers like cast out, which is frankly probably just impossible.
And we see a history of Benalia probably coming in from the sideboard for Karol Nosowicz, and it's already in the graveyard, so I assume that this white, maybe this piece of paper that's, I guess it's a token that represents the Benalia Knight.
Yeah, almost
So-
assuredly.
Yeah. So Marco just end of turn shooting Karol down to 5 with
Yeah,
a
draw.
with a Chandra activation, and
Plus Chandra deal 2
Yeah.
damage to you. Activate Hazard twice.
yes, it should be enough to square things up in this match.
Of course, you do activate Hazard at an inconvenient time. For example, in your opponent's upkeep, if they want to disallow that trigger.
Yes, so that they spend their mana on their own turn. Yeah, you say go.
That's a very good example of putting a control player in a squeeze, like taxing their resources as hard as you can.
Exactly.
Of course,
So-
it looks easy to do if your position is great, but what Marco did here was just not giving Karol any window of opportunity to get back into the game with a huge settle, huge fumigate, or any other
means.
card, any other means that would line up greatly.
Okay, so as these players shuffle, let's see if the middle match is going on. So the match from Dominique and Lee. There is still a plenty of time left in the round.
Karol consulting his pretty extensive list of sideboard nodes, choosing to add a glimmer of genius while being on the play. I have not exactly caught that. How did he exactly sideboard? I know that some players like to remove Search for Ascanta from their decks when they sideboard against the red decks, which is a thing that I don't necessarily agree on with most people.
Alright, we are on the middle match between Dominique and Lee for the time being, and it's the exact opposite. A mono-red deck against blue-white control, just the sides are switched, and it is as well 1-1. So everything depends on these two matches.
Well,
And
not really. I mean, Dominique's, Karol's and Michal's team needs to win both of those.
yeah, exactly. And one of them is not in their favor.
Probably not necessarily exactly, but
Okay, Lee choosing to syncopate that Earth-Shaking Kenra.
so far it's looking
Yeah.
looking good for Dominic with Pomad Courier and Soulscar Mage getting in for cheap damage.
Lee without any problems when it comes to his mana. I see a Settle Wreckage. There is also a Fumigate in his hand. I would feel pretty good if I were in his seat.
Yeah, actually his life
Oh,
points are
it was not a Settle Wreckage. It was an Excellence Binding.
excellent binding, probably targeting the Pomad Courier. So no more Pomad Courier for Dominic for the duration of the game.
That's sad. That's sad.
Yeah, imagine your Pomad Courier is getting surgically extracted from your deck on turn 4.
Because as we know, Surgical Extraction is the best card in Modern format.
I bring that up because it's pretty similar in
It is, and it's
effect to Excellence Binding. Of course, Binding is better because you actually draw those planks.
exactly.
But it's pretty fun when you say surgical extraction about something allowed.
Mhm.
Lee probably pretty tempted to fumigate here. He also seems to be thinking about the fairy. I don't exactly see the last two cards in his hand, but they looks like a field of ruin maybe.
And blink of an eye, I think.
Blink of an eye. So that would allow him to stick a Teferi. Therefore, because his Teferi is not even dead on board, and that's a really nice position. His Teferi stays on 1, which is of course bad against extra chain wheelers, but you can go Teferi plus, draw, untap to lands, maybe even draw something. Have this blink of an eye ready for
Another excellence
an
binding.
an extra threat. Next turn he has access to fumigate, with Teferi ticking up.
I see that Lee is really heavy on these excellence binding, and I can see why, because as you said, you turn off a card and the opponent can still draw them, can still draw blanks. So that's very tempting.
That certainly comes up in these long drawn out matches that Blue-White Control tends to play. Also, like with Chandra being so miles ahead of everything else. Wow, he just drew a Syncopate. This Clurbinger should be exiled, by the way.
Yes, exactly.
But he drew a Syncopate to answer this Clurbinger really nicely. He gets to keep his Blink of an Eye for a future Earthshaker Kenra flashback or Eternalize or whatever else comes up. Dominic can only attack the Fairy for 4 points of damage. Then Lee gets to untap, Fumigate, get up to 15 life points, which is a huge amount. Keep the Fairy on board, untap to lands, keep up Blink.
He could choose to, for example, as well, bind the Chain Whirler. That's also a possibility.
Hey, that's true, that's true. I think you would rather save binding for Chandra.
Oh yeah, of course.
At
That's a
this
clean
spot.
answer.
And
Alright.
you see that Dominic chooses to forgo Teferi entirely, seeing that there's just possibly no point for him in
Trying to remove it.
going after that.
Field of Ruin for Lee.
That's a very hard situation to play around with Teferi frequently, because that's a lose-lose situation. If you attack it for 4, it just stays on 1, so it's still on the battlefield. You lose out on 4 points of damage. If you keep it on 6, then you are never gonna remove it from the battlefield. And
He's committed.
yeah, he has committed to trying to burn Lee Murphy, but with the amount of cards, Lee doesn't even need to fumigate now. I think I will be tempted to use the Fairy's mana ability, but that's not clearly the best play anymore. Now that the creatures chose not to attack after the Fairy, I think.
I think he's gonna go for Seal Away. That's what his teammates were suggesting. That's an aspect of this tournament that we don't have very often. We don't play team events very often.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
The one thing that is pretty bad about keeping Fumigate in your hand is that those threats, the Fumigates lose value as the game goes on, and well, so many of the red deck's threats are hasty, so you really want to prioritize keeping instant speed answers in your hand and like getting the value out of the sorcery speed ones while you can do that.
All right, Dominic's hard
yeah,
on the burn plan.
for example, now Dominic lightning strikes Lee Murphy twice, so Lee has to settle the wreckage, and then he's left with that Fumigate. While Dominic still has this Earthshaker Kenra in his graveyard, he needs to.
Earthshaker Kenra is exiled, I believe. It was syncopated.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. Yeah.
But if he had one,
Okay.
would
Okay.
be
That's then Lee's position is much better. But that's exactly what I was talking about. Like if he has Fumigated, he would have both Settle the Wreckage and Seal Away, still ready for next subsequent threats.
yes, all the little decisions that may mean life or death in this in this thin margin matchups.
Now,
So, yeah.
now he's relying on Teferi to find him some extra answers to any top deck haze threats.
Yes, and Świstak is top deck mode.
And by Świstak you mean Dominik.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just doing.
Yeah, finding an extra field of ruin, not too shabby, but also not relevant. Has he drawn a Lyra Dawnbringer? Okay, well that saves him from most top decks. A Uncrop Crusher would be fatal. A Lightning Strike would be fatal. I think I've briefly seen a Shock, but I'm not sure. That's so tantalizingly close. He just at 3 life, 1 off, and once this Lyra hits, there's no coming back from Dominik.
Unless Fight with Fire.
Unless Fight with Fire, which you would need to kick, but you would need 2 extra lands for that, so that's 2 more chances of Lyra hits, so that's...
Yeah, I think it's pretty far off.
Yeah.
So all the signs are showing that Lee is going to take this match and take the whole set of matches for his team. But nothing is said and done yet. Let's see how it plays
I
out.
think I was mistaken at some point, because I was sure that Lee has a second blink of an eye, but he does not.
Hazoret?
Wow. Does actually... Hazoret is actually not enough. It is still 1 off.
Yes. It is.
Again, like so.
So close.
If that
so
would happen,
far.
if that would happen last turn, he would get to eat Lyra. Lee would still get his 5 life points and get to tag Teferi with Hazoret. But like, Dominik would really like to draw those cards in the opposite order, and also he probably would like his Shock to be a Lightning Strike.
Yeah. So now I guess Hazoret is going to be bound, to Ixalan. No planeswalking for the Jackal God.
Yep. Excellently bound. I mean, at least Dominik hasn't drew any extra Bombard Couriers, so that's lucky for him.
Yep. What was unlucky was this shock. Wow, it's just...
What's the draw? Is it a mountain? Yep.
There's the handshake.
And
Dominik realizes he cannot take the game.
Lee
So-
Murphy, Leo Bartolome, and Marko Milivojevic.
Take the match, take the game in the match, and improve to 3-0
Do they?
record. Oh, I think they do, yeah.
I mean, why did they? What wasn't Dominik versus Lee Murphy score 1 versus 1?
It was. I
It
guess
got
that's just
updated to
yeah.
1 versus 0, which is confusing to both me and I assume some of the viewers.
Yeah, so it is 1 and 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. So they improved their score to 3-0, and as they gather their stuff up, we have 12 minutes left in the round, so we'll have plenty of time to talk to them, and we will see how they think about what they think about their matchups, about their deck choices. So we will be back in a short while with the winners interview. Stay tuned.